In lesson 2, we're going to learn how to touch up our photos. As you can see, we went out, we took a picture, and it came out horrible. It's not clear, it has a pink overtone to it, it's crooked, and this is what we have, and so we want to use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, make sure you guys are using the CC, the newest version. When we take a photo, it tends to come out in a RAW form. And so you'll notice this is a JPEG, but it's also in a camera RAW. If your photo does not open in CC and Photoshop, in this dialog box, I will bring up another tutorial to show you how to open up this dialog box. But this dialog box is pretty powerful because in this box you can see we can do a lot with temperatures and tints and exposures. We can white balance. That's what this little eyedropper allows us to do. So not only do we have the tools up here at the top, we also have the tools over here on the right, and then we also have all these sub menus. So go ahead, when you open this up, spend a few moments, click around, see what it does before you get really started with what I'm going to show you. But I'm just going to come back here, and we are going to spend some time cleaning this up. The first thing I like to do is white balance out a photo, and that's our little eyedropper. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, there was another way to do this in the older version, so I'm going to give this a shot on the new version. Now, what I have to do is to white balance is we know in our brick wall back here that this needs to be white. We know that in her little areas of her tennis shoe has to be white. And then I'm guessing her shirt is white, but then I also see a tint of blue. So I'm not quite sure what color that needs to be. So what I want to do is I kind of want to choose an area, and I want to look at the area that I kind of know that I want it to be white. So I'm going to kind of use this explosion over here, this graffiti, to be my white area. Also, if you take pictures at the high school and you're in the gym and the gym wall comes out yellow, this is the process you would use. So if I just go ahead and click here, notice now it kind of, don't mind that it all turned green, but notice this turned a little bit of white. It's not quite perfect yet, but now it's more white than it was before. And I was right, her shirt does have a little bit of a tint to be a little bluish than it was white. What we want to do now is we want to kind of brighten it up just a tad more with the white. So I'm going to play a little bit over here with my temperature and my tint sliders. Now as I slide these sliders over, I also want to take a look over here as I'm sliding. Both of these went and moved over to the negative. Before I clicked on my, let me go Control Z, notice they're all set to 0. So when I grabbed my eyedropper, my white balance tool, I come over here and selected white, notice it went in the negative direction. So that tells me that I have to go in the negative direction. So I'm going to keep my eyes. Now, eye-hand coordination, I'm going to grab my slider, but I'm looking at the white area. And I'm going to just keep dragging this until I think I have it where it's white. Ooh, that was too yellow. So I'm going to drag that back. And I'm just eyeballing this. This is subjective upon how I see the photo. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come down here to exposure, and I'm going to play with my exposure just a tad. It's kind of okay, but notice if I go way down, it gets, you know, it's too dark, overexposed. So I'm just going to, I think barely any exposure needs to be adjusted. I'm going to come down here to my contrast, and I'm just going to adjust the contrast. Usually when you use your exposure, you chase it a little bit with your contrast. I'm going to give it a little bit of a contrast, maybe 23. That looks good to me. Now notice there's no specific number. If I just gave you numbers to randomly type in here, then you're not learning to look at the photo. You need to look at the photo and drag the sliders at the same time and watch the changes. Now if you change one, you might have to come back up here and change another to dial in the photo to where it looks good for what you're looking for. Now you can mess with the highlights and the shadows and the whites. I'm just going to skip those because I think my whites, I've already white balanced it with my white balance. I've the shadows, the shadows are fine and such, but notice here I have a lot of black outlines. So I'm going to kind of just put a little bit of black, a little bit, make my blacks a little bit darker. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of just put my little bit in there. See if I go, see how it kind of makes it. But you have to be careful because it's going to put in, the shadows are black, but I'm kind of looking over here a little bit, and I think that makes the graffiti pop just a tad. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to keep going down to clarity, and I'm just systematically going down. So that kind of blurred it a little bit. I think I'm going to kind of go right there. -14, vibrance. Kind of where I'm looking right now is up at this brick wall. That's where I want to make sure I'm looking. You know what? I'm going to turn my clarity up because I'm feeling my brick wall, in my opinion, was a little blurry. So I'm going to pull that up to a positive. And then I'm going to take my saturation, and the saturation is colors. Now look, if I oversaturate it, look what it did to the trampoline, or I don't think that's a trampoline. There's no bouncy thing in the middle, but too much. And then if I go all the way down to saturation, it's just going to make it black and white. So saturation deals with color, and I'm just going to put a little bit, not much. If anything, I'm just going to leave it at 0. I don't think it needs that much of a color. I think the yellow might be too much, and the orange, and her pink hat. Okay, so that's what you're going to do, is you adjust your colors. Now if you take a look here, you also have your highlights, your darks, your shadows. You can play with your curve here. Oh, it's, let's see, point. There we go. And you could kind of free it that way. I prefer doing it the way I just did it systematically, because this is too subjective. Pretty much when you input and output using this curve, Control Z, it's taking all of these and you're moving them in one slider. I kind of like going systematically and knowing exactly what I'm changing. All right, and then sharpening, you can sharpen certain areas or the entire picture. Okay, reds, orange, yellows. There's an assignment we do. We take a picture of the hallway, and you only, let's say you want everything to be black and white, but you only want one area, such as the hallway, to be yellow. Or you take a picture of a football player and you only want the helmet to be blue. This is the area that you would change all the colors but one area. And then you have your highlights. So now we're just becoming more specific. FX in Photoshop means special effects. Here is our camera situations, presets, and then you have your snapshots. But pretty much just the basic settings is what we need. All right, so we have our photo touched up. We used our white balance, right? And then we have our color sampler. But let's take a look at some stuff that we have up here. We can crop our tool, we can straighten our tool, we can transform our tool. First, before we crop it, let's go ahead and straighten our tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our straightener, and then our horizon is going to be the level of this wall. We want this wall to be straight. So I'm going to just draw a line. I'm going to let go, double click, and then boom, it's already straightened for us. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and crop our tool because we want to get rid of the white area. So I'm going to crop the tool. Now normal, we have custom, constrain to image, we have overlay. So I'm going to constrain it to the image, and I'm going to pull this down. Pull this right onto our image, so crop it. Now notice here it's going to be a little crooked because we went ahead and straightened it. And now we have a little crop. But notice I missed a little area down there, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pull this up. There we go. And now I'm going to crop it. Okay, so that image is straight. We have it cropped. What else we have? You know, you could touch things up. We could fix some red eye in here. That's really cool, but in this picture she doesn't have red eye, so that's something that we'll have to learn at another time. Alright, so when you're all finished and ready to go, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit Save Image, and go ahead and save that image in a correct folder. I'm going to select a folder. I'm going to go to lessons. This is our video, lesson 2, and then I'm going to do lesson 2 photo adjusted, and hit select. Oh, I want to go folder, and then lesson 2. Okay, well, it's selected. Document Dane. File name right here. Photo adjusted. Okay, and then I'm going to hit save. Okay, and then we're all done. We're done, but I'm going to go ahead and hit open image so we open it in Photoshop. Now what we're going to do in Photoshop is we're going to learn a few things how to adjust our photos. So I'm going to make that a part 2 of our video. So now that you know how to adjust and get our photos ready, let's take a look at part 2.